Hey there, fellow gardeners. Welcome back to Smart Garden, where we help you grow smarter, not harder. If you've recently built a beautiful raised bed and filled it with plants, only to watch them struggle and underperform, you're not alone. Today we're tackling 3 critical mistakes that could be sabotaging your raised bed success right from the start. These blunders cost gardeners time, money, and countless hours of frustration, but the good news is, they're completely avoidable once you know what to look for. Whether you're a seasoned gardener or just getting started with your first raised bed, understanding these pitfalls will transform your growing experience and help you cultivate the thriving, productive garden you've been dreaming of. The costly corner cut. What's lurking beneath your soil? You've invested in quality lumber, carefully constructed your raised bed frame, and you're ready to fill it up and start planting. But here's where many gardeners make their first devastating mistake, one that happens before a single seed hits the soil. The blunder I'm talking about is lining the bottom of your raised bed with weed fabric, plastic sheeting, or landscape fabric. At first glance, this seems like a smart move to prevent weeds from invading your pristine growing space, but in reality, you're creating a biological disaster zone that will haunt your garden for seasons to come. When you install a barrier at the bottom of your raised bed, you're cutting off the crucial connection between your cultivated soil and the native earth below. This isn't just about drainage, though that's certainly a problem. Plastic or fabric liners create a bathtub effect, where water pools at the bottom, leading to waterlogged soil, oxygen-deprived roots, and eventually root rot. Your plants essentially become trapped in a giant container, unable to access the deeper moisture reserves during dry spells, or escape excess water during heavy rains. But the damage goes far deeper than drainage issues. The real tragedy of using liners is that you're blocking the underground highway of beneficial organisms that want to work for you. Earthworms, those incredible soil engineers, can't migrate up into your raised bed to aerate the soil and deposit their nutrient-rich castings. The mycorrhizal fungi networks, those microscopic threads that extend plant root systems and help them access water and nutrients from much greater distances, can't establish the vital connection between your raised bed soil and the broader soil ecosystem. You're essentially creating an isolated island where your plants must rely solely on what you provide, rather than tapping into the living, breathing soil community that exists naturally beneath your feet. The concept of living soil is, honestly, fundamental to long-term garden success. When your raised bed soil connects directly with the native earth, you're not just growing plants in a box of dirt. You're creating an extension of the natural ecosystem, allowing beneficial bacteria, fungi, nematodes, and countless other microorganisms to move freely between soil layers. This exchange is what builds truly resilient soil that gets better with each passing season, rather than depleting over time. The solution is simple: skip the liner entirely. If you're concerned about weeds, lay down a thick layer of cardboard directly on the ground before filling your bed. The cardboard will suppress existing weeds temporarily, while still allowing water and organisms to pass through, and it will eventually decompose, adding organic matter to your soil. Now that you've got the foundation right by allowing direct soil contact, the next critical decision is what you actually fill that raised bed with. This is where the second major blunder occurs, and honestly, it's one that can take years to correct if you get it wrong. The mistake is treating your raised bed like a garbage receptacle, filling it with whatever's cheap, available, or needs to be disposed of. I've seen gardeners dump in construction debris, plain topsoil from a big box store, fresh wood chips, uncomposted yard waste, and even clay-heavy subsoil excavated from other projects. While this might save money up front, you're creating a nightmare scenario that will cost far more in lost harvests and remediation efforts. Let's talk about why random fill material fails so spectacularly. Plain garden soil or topsoil, while fine for in-ground planting, becomes problematic in the confined space of a raised bed. It compacts easily, drains poorly, and often lacks the nutrient density and biological activity that raised bed plants need to thrive in close quarters. Construction debris and clay subsoil are even worse, creating drainage issues and providing virtually zero nutritional value. But perhaps the most insidious mistake is using fresh wood chips or uncomposted organic material as primary fill. Here's what happens. As these materials begin to break down, the decomposition process requires enormous amounts of nitrogen. The soil microbes responsible for decomposition will actually steal nitrogen from your growing plants, leading to severe nutrient deficiency. Your plants will show yellowing leaves, stunted growth, and poor yields, and you'll be left scratching your head wondering what went wrong. The ideal raised bed soil is built in layers, kind of like how nature creates those really fertile growing zones. At the very bottom, right on top of the native soil or that cardboard layer we talked about earlier, you want to place coarser, carbon-rich materials. Things like aged wood pieces, partially decomposed leaves, or well-aged wood chips. This layer, honestly, gives your bed long-term structure and slowly releases nutrients as it continues to break down over the years. The key word here is aged. These materials should already be well into their decomposition process, not fresh and raw. Now, right above this foundational layer, you'll want to fill the bulk of your raised bed with a premium soil blend. The gold standard is about 60% quality topsoil, mixed with 30% finished compost, and 10% of an aeration material like perlite or coarse sand. This combination, really, gives you excellent drainage, lots of nutrients, good structure, and the kind of biological activity that makes for living soil. For those of you planting this November, as we head into the cool season, this soil composition is especially important. Cool season crops like kale, lettuce, and broccoli have their own specific nutrient needs, and they tend to grow pretty quickly when conditions are right. They really need that nutrient-dense compost layer to fuel that rapid growth before the winter temperatures really settle in. And the aeration component, it ensures that even during those winter rains, your soil doesn't get waterlogged and deprived of oxygen. If you're working with an existing raised bed that's filled with poor soil, don't worry. You can just top dress with several inches of quality compost each season, and over time, you'll gradually improve the overall blend. So, you've built your raised bed the right way, you've filled it with the perfect soil blend, and now comes the really exciting part, planting. But this is where, honestly, enthusiasm can sometimes override wisdom, leading to the third big blunder that trips up a lot of raised bed gardeners: overcrowding. It's incredibly tempting to try to maximize every square inch of your growing space, squeezing in just one more plant, ignoring those mature size recommendations on the seed packets, and just treating your raised bed like an all-you-can-plant buffet. After all, you've put in the time and money, so why not get the most out of it, right? The problem is, overcrowding actually creates a cascade of issues that ends up reducing your total harvest and, on top of that, increasing disease pressure and pest problems. When plants are crammed too closely together, they immediately enter into fierce competition for the resources they need to thrive. Sunlight becomes scarce as leaves overlap and shade each other out. Water and nutrients in the soil, even in that beautiful compost-rich blend you've created, must be shared among too many root systems fighting for the same resources. The result is universally stunted growth, where instead of getting 10 robust productive plants, you end up with 20 weak, struggling specimens that produce a fraction of what they should. But the problems extend beyond simple competition. Overcrowded beds create the perfect conditions for disease to take hold and spread rapidly. When plant leaves touch and airflow is restricted, humidity builds up in the plant canopy. This humid, stagnant environment is paradise for fungal diseases like powdery mildew, downy mildew, and botrytis. One infected plant quickly spreads disease to its neighbors in overcrowded conditions. The solution is practicing intelligent, intensive planting rather than reckless overcrowding. Square-foot gardening is an excellent framework for raised beds because it provides specific spacing guidelines for different crops while still maximizing productivity. The concept divides your bed into 1-foot squares, with each square accommodating a certain number of plants based on their mature size. For example, 1 large plant like broccoli or cabbage per square foot, 4 medium plants like lettuce per square foot, or 16 small plants like radishes per square foot. This November, as you plan your cool season plantings, be especially mindful of crops like kale and chard. A single well-spaced kale plant with adequate room to spread will produce abundant harvest through cut-and-come-again harvesting for months. 3 kale plants crammed into that same space will compete, struggle, and produce far less collectively. Here's what intelligent spacing looks like in practice for popular November crops. Lettuce should have roughly 6 inches between plants for loose-leaf varieties, allowing each plant to form a full rosette that you can harvest continuously. Broccoli needs a full square foot because while the plant may look small at transplant time, it will spread significantly as it matures, and those large leaves are what power the development of that central crown you're waiting to harvest. Radishes should be thinned to about 2 inches apart once they germinate, and carrots need 3 to 4 inches between roots to develop properly. Instead of space-hogging crops like potatoes, corn, and vining squash that are better suited for in-ground gardens, focus on crops that excel in raised beds and are just perfect for November planting. Leafy greens are absolute champions for raised bed growing. Kale, especially varieties like lacinato or red boar, thrives in the cool weather ahead and provides, continuous harvests. Lettuce in loose-leaf varieties matures quickly and can be succession planted every 2 weeks for continuous salads through winter. Spinach is cold-hardy and nutrient-dense, and Swiss chard provides both beautiful ornamental value and edible greens that become sweeter after frost. Root vegetables are excellent space-efficient crops for raised beds. Radishes mature in just 3 to 4 weeks, providing quick satisfaction. Carrots, particularly shorter varieties like Danvers half-long, use vertical soil space efficiently. Finally, consider brassicas and alliums for longer-term production. Broccoli and cabbage planted now will provide harvests well into spring. Plant garlic cloves this month for a summer harvest next year. Thanks so much for joining me today on Smart Garden. If you found this information valuable, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Share this guide with fellow gardeners who might be making these same costly mistakes. Happy growing, and I'll see you in the next one.